Thank you. Mr. Speaker, yesterday was the first day of the Lunar New Year, one of the most important holidays for so many people in Virginia and across the world. We are beginning the year of the rabbit, or the year of the cat, for Vietnamese and Vietnamese Americans. As families gathered this weekend to celebrate, cleaning their homes, preparing feasts, and sharing New Year wishes with one another, we woke up to the devastating news that 10 people had been killed and 10 more had been wounded in a mass shooting in Monterey Park, California. This shooting occurred after a day where hundreds of Asian Americans and community members celebrated at a nearby Lunar New Year festival. And in fact, images from the shooting showed lucky red lanterns swaying in the morning light. This shooting occurred in a city whose population is 65% AAPI, a city that prides itself on being the first city in the United States to be majority Asian American. The happiness of the new year was tempered with worry and concern for the victims, their families, and for our larger AAPI community. The outpouring of concern from elected officials was significant, and I really appreciate those that acknowledged how difficult a time it is for the AAPI community. But I'll be frank, I also read many statements that offered condolences for the victims, many statements that called for gun safety reform, and even chipper tweets and wishes for the new year, all without acknowledging the obvious pain that the AAPI community was experiencing. And it was incredibly frustrating to continue to feel unseen and unheard. AAPIs are the fastest growing minority population in the country. In Virginia, our population grew by 45% in the last decade. AAPI voters have made a difference in electing the president in the 2020 election, in tipping the balance of the U.S. Senate in 2022, and in races across so many states in this country. And let's be clear, in 2023, with our population growth and redistricting, many new state Senate and House of Delegate districts are going to have significant AAPI populations. I have no doubt that you will be hearing from our community clearly at the ballot box in Virginia in 23. But one reason for this lack of visibility is that AAPI history is not taught widely in our schools, and this has had generational impact. Time and again, I've heard from AAPI youth and parents that they continue to deal with stereotypes, the model minority myth, which perpetuates the notions that AAPIs are economically successful because we're hardworking and docile, and that we no longer face economic, social, or political barriers. These stereotypes do not account for the tremendous diversity within our community and the very real barriers we continue to face. Misperceptions of AAPIs are as being perpetual foreigners abound, forever othering us and positioning AAPIs as outsiders who are truly not American. And too many people aren't aware that AAPIs have been allies in the pursuit of justice. For example, standing with Black and brown leaders in the civil rights movement and the farm worker movement, and some have actively tried to drive wedges between our communities. So as we debate in Virginia what our new history curriculum shall be, I hope that it is inclusive and full and representative of the struggles and contributions of our diverse Commonwealth. We see firsthand the generational impact of what happens when we do not teach a complete history. And Mr. Speaker, I will be remiss if I did not also note that AAPIs in Virginia have listened very closely to the state of the Commonwealth, the governor's decision for taking Virginia out of the running for the Ford plant, and our debate about these issues in the General Assembly. We should have a real discussion about the national security concerns posed by the Chinese Communist Party, what the federal government is doing to address these concerns, and what role, if any, we should have at the state level, and how much of this is being influenced by one person's ambitions for higher office. But let's remember that any concerns we have are with the Chinese Communist Party or the Chinese government. I've been hearing too much in our discussions in this chamber about China and Chinese people. We must remember that in every country, the government is not the same as the people. Words matter. We saw what happened during the start of the pandemic when leaders used disparaging and inaccurate terms like Wuhan flu. Hate incidents against AAPIs have increased dramatically. Just the other week, a student was stabbed repeatedly on a bus in Bloomington, Indiana. She was targeted because of her race. Her attacker said there would be one less person to blow up our country, quote. Virginia now ranks 10th among states for reported hate incidents against AAPIs. We simply cannot let this be the new normal. It cannot be normal to feel unseen and unheard. It cannot be normal to be unacknowledged and unknown. And it cannot be normal to be scapegoated. So as we embark on the Year of the Rabbit and the Year of the Cat, a time for new beginnings, let us commit to doing better and being better. Let us draw upon the characteristics of the rabbit and the cat, positive, clever, agile, and peaceful. Chúc mừng năm mới tôi chúc anh chị em nhiều sức khỏe, gia đình hạnh phúc, luôn may mắn và thành công, và một năm hòa bình. I wish you a new year, one of good health, happiness, prosperity, and peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.